How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to showcase why I believe every Path of Exile player should be trying out Torchlight Infinite and playing it if it's something they enjoy. Um, I do want to caveat that PoE is still my main game, and of course the game that uh, everyone sets as the gold standard for ARPGs. But as these newer games pop up in the ARPG market, it is important that we are trying them and ensuring that we're taking what's good from them and bringing that feedback to GGG so that it's something that they can use to improve the game. If you look at PoE 2, there's already quite a few things from Torchlight Infinite that they've gone ahead and taken and basically added to PoE their own way. So other than that, let's get into why I think Torchlight is worth a shot for everyone. And reminder again, this video is not sponsored. This is just from my experience of playing the game over the last few leagues. Starting things off, for the number one reason why I think all Path of Exile players should be trying Torchlight Infinite is because Torchlight Infinite is pretty much just Path of Exile. You can tell that they pretty much just took Path of Exile as the standard to start their game on, and if you know anything about Path of Exile, you will be able to drop right into the game without any issues. You're going to notice huge similarities between the mechanics. They're using a lot of the same skills with some small variations, and you're going to be running into a very similar mapping system, gearing system, and other things, and it's going to be something you're going to be able to drop right into and be able to face a new puzzle, compared to treating it as though it's just another Path of Exile league, which is always great to have another puzzle to solve and more builds to try and more things to run through testing. A lot of these league mechanics are going to be, you'll find similarities to them between Path of Exile league mechanics, right? So there's going to be things that are going to be similar to like a Rampage, or similar to a Delirium, similar to Simulacrums. You want a mechanic that's going to be similar to Blight, or similar to like Arch Nemesis type things like this, Betrayal, things like this. And with the league mechanic that is coming out with this league that starts here on the 7th of September, this league mechanic appears to be kind of like a mix of maybe a delve mixed with possibly like an expedition or like an incursion, where you have some choices in regards to how the rooms are built, but it is going to be infinitely scaling, which to me it screams delve more than anything. But you have some other choices in regards to how you build the entire city, so which makes me feel like it's possibly a little bit of incursion kind of tied in there. But they do an excellent job of taking deep inspiration from Path of Exile and then taking the game and modifying it to kind of fit the game that they want to make. So first things, some of the pros I guess you're going to see is you're going to have a very similar number of build enabling uniques and items in order to deeply customize your character. So if we look at the character we have right now, I'm using some crafted items, some unique items here, right here. So this is going to be a unique item that can drop with a lot of different variances. This is going to be very similar to the rings that you can find from Delve, where you're getting various effects for either power, endurance, or frenzy charges. This is going to be something that you can, again, get with a lot of different stats on it. So it can have some random things on it. Then they do have, other uniques, other rare items that you can be getting. And then on top of that, what you have are these things called divinity slates here. So you want to find the right menu here, which allow you to basically further customize your character. So this is between your divinity slates, between your skill tree itself, between the items that you are using, what uniques you're choosing to use. You are getting that incredibly diverse build possibilities, similar to how what you're getting in Path of Exile, to where you actually have options to try out a lot of different combinations and really build the character to fit exactly what you're trying to play. Some of the pros that I would honestly give this game over Path of Exile, personally, is that I feel like this game has a much better new player experience. One of the big things that they do have an in-game trade house. So you're not having to go to pathofexile.com/trade or anything like that. You can just pull up an item. Say we have an item here and we want to price check it, right? Say we have these right here, these boots. We can go ahead and click this price check button in the upper corner, and we can click the little filter button here, and we can look for these specific boots specifically with these stats, right? We want to price check this specifically with this damage number. It's going to show us how many listings are at each specific price. So we have an item like this that's going to have some more rare mods on it, and we're going to basically be able to see the price of everything that's listed. So we can price check our items, and then we can just list it immediately if we want to list it, right? It does limit how many numbers you can put up on the trade post at once. I mean, you can purchase additional tabs to do this, but it's really not necessary. But it is good because it means that the only things that you are typically finding on the market are things that, you know, are actually going to sell. People aren't just listing it and filling it with a bunch of junk that isn't going to actually sell. You know, other little quality of life things, they have these identify all buttons. If you're just trying to identify a bunch of stuff at once, you don't need to be clicking through a bunch of scrolls. A lot of this stuff really does kind of limit how many clicks you're having to do compared to like what you would have with something like Path of Exile. A lot of the items, they do have their own basically crafting systems involved with them. So say this divinity slate, for example, this has its own kind of crafting setup that it has for itself. So say we had this slate here, we wanted to craft it, where we'd have the option to where we could brand it. So we're basically crafting it. And then if most of the mechanics that you do have basically a built-in eternal orb kind of setup. If we don't want to take what we got here, we can click revert, and it's going to get rid of this, and it will just give us something else. And so when we're going to click through, this basically gives you those options for when you're going to build an item. Say if you're trying to build something specific, you're getting these options, and this kind of gives you like, you know, what percentage chance do you have to get it to upgrade, to morph, whatever it may be. And then once the item is fully crafted, it's done. But even when it comes to item crafting, you have this same ability here. They are overhauling the crafting system even further right now. But as it currently stands, again, the same thing. Say we're trying to craft a weapon, we want to lock a mod, it increases the price for what it takes to lock a mod, right? If we want to lock 2 mods, it increases it even further. But this gives you the flexibility to more deterministically craft items for yourself. Some of the other things it does have is it has a built-in auto loot. There is an auto loot that you get here through the free version of the battle pass that comes with the game here. I believe it's like what, level 10 or 15 or something like that, right here, level 15. So we have this auto loot. This will pick up most items for you. Any of the high value items, neither the auto loot that you get with the purchased level of the battle pass or the normal one is going to pick those up. You still need to manually pick those up, which is nice because it means you're actually seeing them on the ground and you're kind of getting that dopamine hit of like, oh hey, I got an item drop, this is great. The built-in, what you are getting with the paid auto loot, you are basically picking up a little bit of extra items. It'd probably be the equivalent of maybe picking up like fusings or like chisels, I guess maybe. Probably chisels. I think about be the equivalent of picking up chisels instead of everything else, but you're still having to manually pick up your own chaos orbs or divines or anything like that. You do also have a loot hotkey that you can set, and you can also loot things from range. So if I was standing here in the middle, I could find an item that was on the very edge of the map and I could click it and it would loot it all the way on the edge of the map, which is nice. Some of the other pros, you do have a built-in skill vendor here. So if I needed to get a new skill or I wanted to pick up a new skill or a support gem, I could go in here and I could just buy it directly. I wouldn't have to go to any vendor. I wouldn't have to be walking around to go to a specific vendor. I could just go and buy whatever I needed, right? If I needed a summon machine guard, I could click get and it's just going to get it for me and it's going to be free. Some of the other things we have here is for the leveling experience, they have these items called Black Market here, which you get with this resource here that you do get, this black gold resource here that you do get while leveling through doing basically various quests. Typically you'll end up completing some of them just while running through doing the main story campaign. And these give you an option to kind of get some additional gear while you are leveling, and you have the ability to get uniques out of this as well. This is definitely something I feel like very heavily is inspiring the mechanic of them using gold for PoE 2. Even I feel like this is something that they saw is a very good new player experience, and they decided to move it over to PoE as well, because it's something that really helps out new players and helps builds get going. One of the other things on this trader is he does have a shop in order to sell you beacons, which are these are basically maps, right? This gives you the ability to do any map within this Steelforge region. So instead of actually having hundreds of different maps, there's maybe only like 6 of them, depending on what tier they are, right? I mean, I guess there's more than 6, but there's the 5 regions, and then there's the beacons for every tier of those, right? So these are going to be like your white maps, these are going to be your yellow maps, and these are going to kind of pushing into your red maps here, and these are kind of like your delirium level maps where you start to get them into these higher ranks to where things start to step up really a lot. But with this vendor here, it prevents you from having to use the trade system or being forced to trade. If you want to just run one specific region or one specific layout, you're more than welcome to do that, right? You can go to this vendor and you can purchase that. Same with the compass shop, which this is going to basically be your scarabs here. You can purchase these directly from this vendor. You don't have to go to the trade post to purchase these. Right now you're just seeing the free upgrades that you can do to this vendor, but with the next league that's coming, it is making it to where you can purchase basically scarabs directly from this vendor, because they were running into issues with them being price fixed, and they wanted to adjust that basically, and they wanted to remove the ability for things to be price fixed like this when they are something that people deem is valuable. Some of the other stuff that they do have in this game versus Path of Exile is that they do have a DPS Golem here, or a skill or a damage dummy here, right? So I can be throwing my damage down, and I can be getting very accurate numbers for how much damage my character actually does without having to, pick and choose or make guesses or have to use something like Path of Building in order to really figure out how much damage my character is doing. So you're just going to see here, basically, I mean, again, we're going to get our highest DPS in 5 seconds, and then you can also run it for a specific duration for whatever you're trying to do. But this is, again, very helpful for the type of stuff that really helps when you're trying to make build changes or determine whether or not something is better for you. Something they also do is the skill tree here. You get free respecs on everything up to level 81, which is great, again, for a new player, because when you're new, you want to try out a bunch of different stuff. You're not sure what's best for you, or you want to try things that sound interesting to you. The way that the system works is when you have a class here, when you first start a character, you must select one of these gods here. I mean, you can change this as well. Like, I could fully respec and change my character to starting God of War. But if you choose one of these God of Knowledge trees, for example, this tree specifically for cold damage, once you go through here, these have specific large traits here that you get at 10 and 20 points. These are going to basically be like almost like your ascendancy points, almost kind of similar type things, where you have some choices here, or like your notables more so, I would say, to where you get to basically choose, and you can freely change these as you want. These don't cost any respec points to change. You can change these mid-fight if you want to. But you have some variability here, right? You have some choices that you can make, and then once you have selected a tree on your first one here, as you get into levels, you will unlock a second tree as well. The second tree that you put in will have to be part of the same tree that you have. So if you choose something from, say you chose God of Might here, the second tree you had would have to be one of these other 3. But then your third one can be from anyone's trait line. So I would have the freedom and flexibility to make my character completely unique. If I didn't want to be Druid here, my third tree could be Warlord, it could be Ranger over here, it could be Alchemist, it could be something completely different. So you really have the options to kind of mix and match and build a character that's true to you. And then you have a lot of different pieces that you can kind of work with. And the beauty of that, again, because you can freely respec before level 81, you can level a character to level 80, which is where you're going to unlock your last hero trait. And here, and then you can fully test everything. If you want to go test it on the DPS Golem, you can test everything, and you can stand there for hours and try out a lot of different trees and try out a lot of different things in order to basically find a character that suits what you're trying to do. I mean, outside of that, respec orbs do still exist. They're called Elixirs of Oblivion in this. They're not very expensive because of the fact that people can freely respec to 81. You can typically fully respec a character if you wanted to for the equivalent of like a few Chaos Orbs. One of the other best things that the system does is it uses a system called an energy system. So if you look at the gear here, my gear has a specific amount of energy. The energy amount for armor maxes out at 61. So this basically determines how much linking power I guess I have, and then body armor goes up to, I believe, 122, something like that. And then, so what we have here, if we go to the tab here, we can click on this little button up in the upper right hand corner. This allows us to choose what we want to do with our links. So we have a certain amount of energy here. As you see, pushing something to a 6 link does cost 100 energy. So if I wanted to run, for example, more 6 links, I could reduce the links that I have in a couple other skills. If I wanted to reduce the link here, I could reduce the link over here in order to get myself the 100 points that I needed. If I wanted to run 2 6 links, for example, right? I could run 2 6 links in my build, but there are trade-offs for this, right? I'm having to drop links and other things in order to run 2 6 links. If I want to just run a 5 link, then I can again increase these other links over here, and I can run everything else, or run more 4 links, a couple 5 links, and 1 6 link. This allows you to freely make these choices without having to go through a linking process for gear or anything else. And getting items that have this energy amount is also very inexpensive. There's a vendor over here that allows you to basically change the energy value on an item. So let's see if I can find an item that has a lower energy value here. So this item, for example, here, let's go ahead and select this. So you'll see it basically is going to roll anywhere between 1 to 61. You can safely spam this button if you wanted to. If you hit the max value, it will basically gray out the button, so you can't actually go over it. But pretty much, for the most part, most builds aren't going to require a very specific, like the perfect amount of energy involved. So typically, if you get something upwards into the 50s, so as you see it grayed out here as I got to 61, if you get something in the upper 50s, typically that's good enough. As you can see, like the gear that I have on, almost none of it is perfect because it didn't need it to be in order to basically hit my tree, right? I think if I got everything perfect, I could probably get 1 more extra 4 link or 1 extra 5 link type thing situation, but that's going to be about it on that. The mapping system, or the mapping experience, you're going to be running the same thing similar to how you would in PoE. You have your different regions. Each one of these regions does have its own boss that you're getting basically after doing a certain amount of maps. So this is going to be similar to like your influence type things, and then you can adjust your tier of map, right? So T7 maps, these are basically going to be doing your like T16s. If you wanted to lower it down to like lower red maps, yellow maps, etc., you can you go through this process and you kind of unlock these as you're going through. They also have this chapter system in here, which really helps out new players. They have a lot of things that are going to basically give currency for accomplishing certain things in the game. So this is one: buy an item on the trade house, equip a legendary item, little things. They're going to be pretty simple for the most part. A lot of them you're going to automatically do without even actively trying to do them. But as you start to get further into these, you start to get rewarded with Chaos Orbs, things like this, right? You're getting 10 Chaos Orbs here. The next one, you're getting 20 Chaos Orbs. The next one, you're getting 40, etc. And these, along with the merits and traits over here, these are also going to be giving you extra things that you could be using to increase the power of your character. These packed spirit crystals here are going to be what are used to unlock pets. The pet system, or like the boon system here, is also very unique in regards to specializing your character. So this packed spirit system here, this is another additional tree that you're getting points for, and this is where you get to use these pets. you do kind of have the ability to change these. If I wanted all 3 of my trees to be damage, I could change them all to damage, right? Or if I wanted them to all be defense, I could change them all to defense once I've unlocked some pets. This is one of those systems that I would say is, if they fix some of the systems with it, then it would purely just be a pro system and not have any cons to it. But this system is also the one that most people, I think, would argue would be the biggest con of the game, is that this is pay to win pets, basically, right? Because most of these pets are going to be coming from the cash shop. You are going to be getting a small amount of them from the game itself. You are going to be getting a small amount of them without having to spend any money. But there are some very good legendary pets, for example, that are going to be giving people like a definite advantage over someone who doesn't have them. Most of the time it's not much, right? So this one, I think he's giving me a special notable that is this character, I believe, can get, I guess, additional cast speed, right? So this is going to be some additional damage. If my character scales off of cast speed, then this is going to be like a more multiplier that I would have access to that others might not have access to. If they don't have a legendary pet, then they were just using something else normal, then it's this bottom node is still just going to be item quantity, right? Or if someone has access to legendary pets for item quantity, certain things like that, they might be getting a little bit of additional loot. Personally, myself, I haven't ever spent any money on pack spirits. I've unlocked quite a bit of them just out of free-to-play means. I have quite a few legendary pets here as well, just off of free-to-play means. And it's not something that bothers me too much, but there are some specific pets in here, like for the league mechanic, that do offer additional rewards for people. So if you look at that, it is one of those things where you can absolutely quantify like that someone who's using, who spent $500 or something crazy to unlock the maximum level of one of these pay to win pets, they would be getting more loot than someone who didn't. To me, it's one of those things where it's like there's always going to be people that are going to be getting better loot than me, right? The people who are doing group play and PoE are always going to be making 10 times more money than anyone else who's playing, but it's not something that really affects their enjoyment of the game, right? Like, we all know that group play exists. We all know that we could do it, but we choose not to do it, right? Same thing goes, right? We could spend money in the game, but we choose not to do it because it's not necessary, right? In order to have fun, you don't need to do that. One of the other systems they have that could arguably be a con is the, if you look at the shop here, the hero shop, these, you do unlock these hero emblems here just by playing the game. These are on the battle pass or tied to achievements, and you can use these to buy heroes when they come out. But the one system where you can't do this is in regards to the season pass. Will always have a character that you are unlocking with it, basically early access. You are getting access to a character one league early. So this league, Escapist Bing, was on the Battle Pass. In order to play him, you needed to buy the Battle Pass for $10 or $15, whatever it was. But as of the next league, Escapist Bing will be on that other hero shop menu, where you can purchase him with your currency that you earn in the game, or just purchase him with cash, whatever it may be. Same thing is going to go for the next season. There is going to be one character that's going to be in the shop that the only people who are going to be able to play it versus during this next season are going to be people who spend money. So this is definitely the two circumstances, or at least two of the three circumstances at which someone who's spending money is going to have an advantage. Same thing goes with this advanced auto loot. It does pick up a little bit more than just the normal auto loot. It doesn't really change things too much, but I mean, it is definitely something you couldn't argue isn't pay to win in some aspect. The other biggest cons, I would say, with the game that most people have right now is that the PC version does not have its own dedicated UI still. I know this is something they're constantly working on improving, always, and you can see it here, right? Like they did the last league they introduced. They added these screen settings here so we could adjust the scaling, right? So this is more suited for something for an actual PC rather than other things. We can also change things that you can modify them, whether it's for going to be for mobile or PC. But there are little things where, like, again, you can't just drag and drop your loot, right? Like, you have to click things in order to move them around, because that's still built for like a mobile UI. I can't just drag and drop my items around as I would if I were playing something like Path of Exile, for example. The last con I would say with the game is going to be in regards to the chat. The chat is limited to 50 characters in the open world, and messaging people or friends is not the easiest system to kind of get into. So it does definitely make things a little bit harder. They did add a guild system last league as well. So, I mean, they are constantly making improvements to this. Again, the game is still technically in early access right now, but for what you're getting, for a free game, you're pretty much just getting Path of Exile again with a new league mechanic. So if you are starting to get bored of the league mechanic with Path of Exile, I would highly encourage going and checking out Torchlight Infinite. This isn't sponsored to any degree. I'm just kind of done with this current PoE league right now, and I'm ready to, explore something new, find a new puzzle to solve, and see what builds can be made in the new Torchlight League, and check things out. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments down below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. And other than that, keep an eye on this channel. I'll be updating with some other future guides, or you can look at my prior videos for previous guides in regards to prior Torchlight Leagues if you want to check out more in regards to the game. I highly recommend checking it out. Again, this video is not sponsored. It's just a game that I enjoy, because to me it's just another Path of Exile league in between Path of Exile leagues. So I'm happy to always play it, and I always have a good time with it, and I know I'm not the only PoE player who does. So, other than that, see you in the next one.